So, welcome, Laura. Now, you are a mindset coach and a clinical hypnotherapist, helping busy mums beat stress and burnout, break generational patterns, and feel more connected to their children. You focus on the work with the subconscious mind and nervous system to help shift unhelpful conditioning like people pleasing, perfectionism, guilt, anxiety, all the things I am guilty of myself, so mums can feel more confident, supported, and in control, creating a life where hopefully ease replaces overwhelm, which we all need in our lives, especially at this time of year. This is why I actually love having Laura as one of our coaches in the 5 Hour Coaching channel, because she brings a different perspective to the mix. It's not just about that career, it's about supporting us as individuals first. So today, Laura is going to speak to us about something we probably all have, but have no idea we actually have it, hence the name, which is an unconscious stress addiction. Now, Laura, when you told me about this, it was like a light bulb going off. I was like, oh yeah, I probably have that. That is sounds like something I have. But I know I'm just constantly busy, and when I'm not busy, I feel like I have to add something to the mix to make me go at full speed again and to keep, everything going. So I feel like I'm constantly in this stuck stress mode, like you say. So hopefully today, Laura, you're going to tell us more about what this unconscious stress addiction is, how that the everyday signs that show our nervous system is in this stress mode, maybe how our childhood shapes how we react, which we talk about a lot now, about how we need to almost reparent ourselves, and then hopefully some tools to help us in those moments of overwhelm, particularly this time of year. I think we all need those things to bring some calm into our spaces. So thank you for joining us in this busy final week before school kicks out. Can you tell us, first of all, how did you and why did you get into what you're doing now, and a little bit more about why it's so important to you?
Yes, thank you, Amy, for that intro. I got into it because, I had a bit of a career pivot sort of, I guess 4 or 5 years ago now. I was retraining because I was so fascinated once I'd had children and became a mother, especially with my firstborn, who I now know is highly sensitive. And I then learned once I'd had him that I'm also highly sensitive. And so that journey led me on a real kind of journey of self-discovery and self-development. And I learned that actually when he's having meltdowns and tantrums, and it was around the kind of toddler phase with him, I was realizing, okay, this is something I can't control. And as someone who was like a bit of a perfectionist and who loved to be in control of things, yeah, motherhood, obviously, where you have zero control, hit me quite hard on that side of things. So it started when I went down this journey of learning about conscious parenting, and I set up my Instagram account to share my knowledge and everything that I've been learning through books and podcasts and everything else. I'd started sharing my knowledge, but I was realizing actually, okay, I've learned that no child is naughty. I've learned that we're not here to fix them. I've learned that actually all behavior is a form of communication. But why am I finding it so hard to actually get this right? Because I was doing all the things and I was working really hard at, my own kind of issues and my own baggage, but still I was, not getting it right with snapping and that kind of thing. And then I learned about the subconscious mind, and I did my hypnotherapy qualification, and then I kind of started diving down the kind of niche of stress, because I lived in a household where one of my parents was always very stressed. Stress management is something that my dad never learned about. He still hasn't learned about it. And yeah, so for what was modeled for me in childhood was, if you're stressed, this is how you react. And it's always like quite a bad reaction to the situation. It's like never pause and manage it in the moment. And so, yeah, when I became a mother, I was like, okay, I'm realizing that actually angry outbursts and feelings of rage and that kind of thing is really hard to manage. But through unconscious, hypnotherapy and coaching, I was getting better. But what I did realize a little bit later down the line was that actually I think I'm addicted to stress, but I was completely oblivious to it. And actually I had been for a really long time, almost a lifetime. And it was down to what was modeled to me, but also it was down to being in survival mode as a new parent, because I was sleep deprived and all the things that are very common in that matrescence kind of era. So yes, I like to support mothers with this specific niche and topic, because I think that more people, I think it's more often than not the case that mothers are unknowingly addicted to stress, and it's really a really hard pattern to get out of, because yeah, when you grow up, you are in your nervous system is used to an environment that feels familiar, and it can be really hard to break the pattern of that familiarity, even when the alternative is a nicer life and it's easier and nicer and, healthier.
Oh, that is really interesting because I think so many of us go through that similar process where we're trying to do the best for our children and trying to put everything in to be, a better parent, a good parent, a conscious parent, and whatever it is, to give them everything that maybe we didn't have as children. But in the process, we then learn so much more about ourselves and what triggers us. And that can be quite eye-opening, can't it? I think until we're sort of aware of that, we can't do anything about it, which I think is why the work you're doing is so brilliant, because it isn't just about how we're parenting our children, it is about how we're parenting ourselves and how we unlock all of those things that we need to be able to do to be the best parent and to be able to show up for ourselves too. So I'm really excited about today because I think I'm going to answer so many questions, and I don't want it to become a therapy session between me and you, but I'm going to try and hold back on my own demons here. But if you could tell us then, because I hadn't heard of this before, and I'm sure lots of people haven't, what does it mean by this unconscious stress addiction? What is that, and what does it sort of look like?
Yeah, okay. So it looks like, I'll give some examples because I think it might resonate more if I give examples. So let's say, for example, it's morning time, you're getting the kids ready for school, you have already asked them 6 times to get shoes on, finish breakfast, and you feel like you've repeated it. You do something to waste a bit of time. You're already up against the clock, you're already rushing, but then you go and do something else, waste a bit of time. That is the unknowing bit. That's the bit where you're almost self-sabotaging, and then you're like, oh my god, get in the car, and stress levels getting higher and higher, and the morning just feels shit, basically. So that is an example, but it can show up in various different ways. Bedtimes are another really difficult time of day, obviously, with kids. But what the bit about, where I said we do something to kind of make life harder, that is the bit where I was noticing a few years ago. I would start tidying up the Tupperware cupboard, or I'd get the Hoover out, or I'd do something that easily could have been done after the school run. And what I was realizing was, when I was getting curious about it, I was creating that chaos because in my childhood, leaving the house was never an easy task. My mum had 3 children. She did everything on her own. My dad was always working out of the house. And yeah, like, I think the chaos of that familiarity of, the shouting and the rushing, because my system is used to that and that feels safe because it's familiar, I was recreating that for my children. And I didn't know. It was all unconscious. And so once I realized that, I actually created like a self-hypnosis for myself, and then I did one for the kids as well. And I started slowly kind of breaking that pattern. And I have to say, for about the last year or so, our mornings have been amazing. So it can be something that's it can be flipped on its head easily, but that's, I guess, a perfect example, because I feel like mornings can be really, really tricky. And it's just noticing in the moment where you may react or go to do a behavior or go to, like, I don't know, self-sabotage. It's kind of becoming aware in the moment where that might be happening, and then changing that pattern, because you're on a loop. You're on like an autopilot, basically.
Oh, that's really interesting because I hadn't thought about it, even just in that small period of time. Like our mornings are similarly stressful. And I think you're right. Like I think in my head, well, I need to make sure I get the dishwasher cleared and I need to do this and that and da, 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 and I'll put a load of washing on and I'll do these to try and, but that is all sort of time wasting, when actually the focus of the morning is getting us out of the house without me having to shout. And I guess I always put it on the boys and the fact that they're time wasting because they're, running rings and they're doing all these things. But actually, they probably fall into this, loop where they see me being distracted and going somewhere else and doing something else. So why should they not go and do that? So
Yeah.
then it's kind of all erupts in those last 5 minutes before you need to leave the house and nobody's ready and it is, yeah. And it kind of, for me, I always feel like, how do we get through the mornings without them being stressful? Because it's the same thing every single day. We are in the same patterns. We are in the, and I guess for me, it is that, like you, probably this sort of soothing where I get to a point where I shout or, I lose it. And then I've noticed that they're starting to do it back to me and I can hear myself, which it almost triggers me even more. How do you then, and maybe we'll come into this later, but how do you stop that happening, because that shouting for me, I realize actually when I raise my voice, they respond very quickly, often, sometimes not, but it is almost soothing. How do you then stop that cycle of adding that stress to the situation, because actually it is a weirdly soothing thing?
Yeah, there's a few things you can do. First of all, I just want to acknowledge that we do have millions of things to do. So actually, when we are stopping to go and do other tasks, this is a survival response, because we just have so much to get through. Our to-do list is always like unbelievably long. So because of that, we want to be able to get through those things. So we don't want to waste time. We want to like utilize our working hours, don't we? So I just want to acknowledge that no one's doing anything wrong here, and I'm giving compassion to anyone who might be listening and thinking, but that's me. Like, we're not broken people, we're not doing anything wrong, we're just kind of almost in that, we're still in those survival patterns, I think. So what we can do in the moment when we feel like we could make a better choice is take a pause. Very hard to do in the mornings when you're in a rush, but a tiny pause. It's just literally interrupting that pattern loop and just saying to yourself, I'm doing it again, or I get to choose differently now. And taking a pause, deep breath, and just simply saying, hey, okay, and just basically saying things out loud. Because I think children, we want to model emotional intelligence to them so that they can then learn it. There's no better way of teaching them than modeling ourselves. And so I guess it's saying out loud, which is something I started doing that I found helpful, but this can look different for different people. I started saying, look, I'm feeling really stressed. I can feel myself getting mad. Like, my body is feeling stressed. I really would like it now if we could just get shoes on. And sometimes, I just get their shoes on for them. It's okay to help them out. If they're still quite young, like, just help them out. Like, their brains, they've got completely different brains to us. They're still developing, and it's harder for them to find that logic. So yeah, helping them out and just choosing in the moment to remember their brains are undeveloped. They can't help it. Yeah, they're distracted. Take a pause, take a breath, and literally do something to kind of almost break that state, that sort of like loop state. That can be something really simple as well. It can literally be taking a sip of water. It can be just, yeah, kind of checking yourself, and I don't know, adding a bit of movement or something that kind of almost breaks that state. I feel like this is a really bad example using the morning one, because we're in a rush, because when we're rushing, we don't want to like waste more time. But yeah, for me personally, I might just take a sip of cold water, express how I'm feeling. And once I've said it out loud, I'm then able to almost kind of get out of that survival instinct and reconnect back to my senses and be like, right, guys, come on, we've got this. Let's get in the car. And it can just all feel then a little bit calmer. During other times of the day where you've got more time, it can look like, I think I've mentioned to you, like shaking out your body and finding moments where you can just, again, connect to senses. So like grounding feet into the earth, whacking on a song and dancing, like crazy dancing to like a rock song or something like that, and inviting the kids to do it with you. Yeah, there's a few different things that I could probably go on forever with this. Another one is humming and gargling and that kind of thing. But there's different things you can do in the moment that connect you back to your senses and regulate your nervous system when you're in that state of stress. So
That's really helpful. Today, I have to say, knowing that we were talking about this day and knowing how I'm feeling lately with the build up of everything that's happening, I just stuck my head out the window, because I just needed to take a breath of fresh air. And we were about to go like this, we were about to erupt, and I didn't do. I think that's a key thing, sort of articulating what you're doing, because I think me going to my head out the window, the boys are looking at me like, she all right? And maybe that's they may be feeling a bit fearful of what I'm doing. But if I said to them, look, I'm feeling this way, I want to go and take a breather, and then maybe that would have helped as well. So I'll go and try and do that next time. When is it? What are the signs in our bodies? And I think we probably all know them. What are those signs when that sort of unconscious is taking over our nervous system? Should we be looking for in those moments, and when should we, be making a break?
And first of all, I just also want to say on that, sticking your head out the window is brilliant. I do that a lot as well. And I will say I'm sticking my head out the window to get some fresh air. Yeah, so like you said, articulating, that's a really good one. Oh gosh, now I've said that, I've forgotten your question. What did you just say? Sorry.
What are the signs? When should we be sticking our head out of the window taking a breath?
Yeah, the signs are, so noticing when you're feeling hotter. So sometimes you feel hotter, your face might go a bit red, you're feeling maybe a bit itchy, like itchy neck. And these are kind of like a stress response that, because it can look different for different people. So like it depends on your biology. It can look like feeling like you want to run away, so like flight response. So you've got fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So those are your stress responses. Well, the four main ones, there's actually seven, but they're the ones I'll go into. So a fight response can be like the real irritability, so starting to get irritable, starting to shout, snapping, and feeling like you just want to give them a sense of control or control them. Flight can look like just really feeling like you want to run into another room and escape the whole situation. But it can also look like overworking. So once you've got out of that kind of mode, and you're during your working day, it can look like overworking and like not being able to finish work and feeling like you're always rushing around. Freeze can look like procrastination. And then the fawn response is like people pleasing and just having zero boundaries. So these are like this kind of survival mode stress responses that I think will really feel relatable to mothers, because generally I think that we may flit between most of those, but you might have one that you generally kind of feel like you fall into a bit more than the others. For me recently, I've definitely felt like I'm rushing around a lot, but I think that that's very common this time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, that is. And I think I always thought mine was fight. Like I'm always, I'm that snappy, I'm shouty, I react quickly. But actually, when you said it like that, actually throughout the day, then if I've had a morning like that where I've been, got into that stress mode, and then throughout that day, then I'm like, well, I have to get this particular task done, or I get really, this real sense of urgency about something, or all of a sudden I want to clear out a cupboard or my cutlery drawer, or, these particular things where in the past they've maybe soothed me, whereas now maybe they're not particularly helpful. But that's quite interesting because I hadn't realised that that was me dealing with stress. That I thought that was me calming myself down, but actually there are other things that it sounds like I should be doing instead to properly calm my nervous system down.
Well, actually, I think it might feel soothing. It's soothing for you. I would argue that it perhaps does feel soothing because maybe your system enjoys the familiarity of being on the go all the time. Maybe the rushing feels familiar and soothing to you because, yeah, like I said, it's just something, it's maybe the mode that you fall into the most. And so, yes, it may feel a little bit scary do you find it hard to sit down and sit still and clear your mind? Is that hard? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
if I've got anything to do, anything, I can't relax. I couldn't get into a mode where I feel like, okay, I'm going to breathe for a minute. It's just not really doable.
yeah, I think that if you take a moment one day when it feels okay to do, which maybe this time of year is the wrong time, but actually it could be a good challenge for you, to sit down and just even pop on a timer and just be like, I am going to sit for 5 minutes. I'm going to sit for 5 minutes. And yes, these thoughts will enter my head. The thought of wrapping presents and doing this and replying to those emails, and it's okay. I'm going to invite those thoughts and say thank you. Yes, thank you, brain, for reminding me that my to-do list is still there. But I'm going to honour my rest time and continue to sit here. And even if you're just staring at the wall or looking out the window or sitting outside and getting a bit of fresh air and looking at the trees, that's a really good kind of practice just to start training your system to remind it and let it know that actually I'm safe to do this. This feels weird. I want to move. I want to get on with things, but I'm going to make myself do this. And once you've done it once, you can try it again, and then you can keep trying and maybe extend the time. And the more you do that, the more you're reminding your system and your subconscious mind that actually, no, I'm okay to do this, and the house isn't going to burn down and no one's going to die. It's all good.
And what is the trick to this? Is it a case of we do these things that you said about, in terms of, grounding ourselves, taking a moment in the moment, or should we be building this in as a habit throughout the week where we think, okay, well, when the children go to school every day, I'm going to, like you do, I know, go for a walk, and build it in as a habit to just calm my nervous system down regardless of what is going on? Because I think for me, I feel like I need all of these tools, and I'm really rubbish at doing these tools when I really need them most. And I think it's because I haven't necessarily trained myself. That's the feeling that I get. So actually, I haven't got a tool belt to cling on to. I think actually I know what calms me down. Even when I'm not that stressed, I know what calms me down. What should we be doing in that sense?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it really it kind of depends on your routine. I would say have a mixture of two different things. Have a mixture of little micro moments throughout the day of self-regulation, because I think as busy people, we're probably the busiest people in terms of like, you know, in our household, there's no one else that's kind of thinking of all the things, and no one else has that kind of heavy mental load. So micro moments throughout the day are really helpful for mothers, because we really get that chance to just ground back into our senses as and when we can throughout our working day, and also when the kids are home as well, because if they're having, you know, meltdowns and it's stressing us out, or there's lots of noise and it's overstimulating, it's really good for us to just take a moment, even if it's 1 or 2 minutes. But also, yeah, setting up a new habit, that is something that you just need to put a little bit of effort into working into your routine. So, you know, for me, it was quite hard setting up my morning walk, because I thought, well, no, I've only got a certain amount of time to work throughout the day, and I'm eating into that time, and I can't do that. But actually, it's been a good few years now where I've done the morning walk, and it is an absolute non-negotiable now. And my brain feels so weird if I don't do the walk. If I don't do it now, my brain is like, yeah, and my body, like, and my body needs it, because there's no other time of the day where I really do it. So that's my new normal, if you know what I mean. And I think it's just doing it. Once you've done it once, do it again, do it, and really have that conscious reminder, like, I just need to keep doing it. This is why hypnotherapy is great, because it can rewire those neural pathways to just, yeah, once you listen to hypnotherapy, and you know, because 95% of what we do is governed by our subconscious, and so if you keep listening to something on repeat, those new neural pathways are going to be carved out. And if you're listening to something that tells you, like, your nervous system is safe to go for that morning walk, or to do, I don't know, the yoga class or whatever it might be, you just end up doing it without thinking about it. It's just it just feels easy, because you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to that. And then you're there, and then you're at the class, and you're like, oh, I didn't even think about getting here, because, you know, you've been listening to something that with the suggestions, it's just kind of helped you to do it. So yeah, it does take a little bit of new, like, pattern formation in the mind. When it's a new thing, you might do it once and then forget, and then feel bad, and then feel guilty. But yeah, you just got to keep at it and remind yourself. But I do have a podcast called Unlearning with Laura, where there are some great hypnosis audios, which some of the listeners might feel like are helpful for, like, taking time for you, and reminding you also that you deserve it and you're worthy of it. Because the other thing is, we feel like we're not worthy a lot of the time. So yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, I think those, I'm going to give those a go. Because I do, is it with your podcast, is it that you would listen to the same hypnotherapy track again and again as a sort of way to, like you say, retrain your brain into a more sort of positive mindset of things?
Yeah. So I have a few different audios on there. So for example, I use ones that I've actually used in real life with real clients, and I just edit them down, and with their permission, I share it. And so, for example, there is one that I put out recently, and it was around emotional eating at Christmas time. And so you can download that if that feels like it's something that you would need, you can download it to your device, or you can just literally stream it, listen every night or every other night, however often you can, for 21 to 30 days, and you'll notice a change. And it's really effective, because, you know, it's like I said, it's speaking to your subconscious. So as your brain goes from awake to asleep, your brain waves slow down. They go from beta to alpha to theta. And when your brain is in a theta state, everything is just being absorbed like a sponge. And our children's brains are actually, if you have a child that's young, between 0 and 6, 7, their brains operate from that same state. So that's why everything that we say about them, or, you know, communicate with them, they are like a sponge. And that's why we say children like a sponge, because yeah, they are taking it. And that's where we get our conditioning from. So us being addicted to stress, or learning how to be a people pleaser, or kind of, yeah, feeling like those patterns that you've fallen into, generally has come usually from our own conditioning in those formative years. So I call them the imprint years, because that's when our brains were literally just soaking it all up from our environment around us and our people, caregivers around us. So yeah.
That's so, in some ways it's reassuring, and in other ways it's really scary, because I think of all those, okay, so it's not our fault, it's our, you know, it's behaviours now, like you say, it's all in this subconscious where we've learnt it as children, for, you know, whatever environment we were in. So would everybody have this conditioning essentially from, you know, their environment? Is that, whether it's positive or negative, is that something
Yeah, we all have our own conditioning. We all have trauma. We all have, and again, it's big or small, but we all have our little quirks and our little traits and our personalities. And I do that because we can change our personality. You know, I grew up believing I was shy because everyone around me was like, she's shy. Oh yeah, she should. And then I realized in the last kind of 5 or 6 years, I'm not shy. I'm not. Like that was fed to me, and because I believed that, I kept reinforcing that belief because I kept keeping myself small and shrinking down and believing like, oh, I can't do that thing, or if I go for that interview I'm going to be really scared. And it was just something that was fed to me. Yeah. I just kept kind of reminding myself, actually no, because in my formative years I remember being at primary school and I remember being confident and being loud and being mad and fun. And so yeah, I've kind of done a lot of work on that because yeah, our brains are neuroplastic and we can change them. And so that's why I love, yeah, the coaching alongside the hypnotherapy, because those mindset shifts they can actually happen quite quickly as well if you're really open to creating the change, and if you're really kind of fed up with a particular behavior or a fear or a phobia, or like, you know, a smoking habit, anything like that. Yeah, hypnotherapy is fantastic for creating change quite quickly.
Right, that's the reassuring bit, is knowing that actually it is possible that we can change these behaviors. I think becoming a mother, I sort of realized, I didn't realize I had certain things. And like you say, it was things that, you know, maybe people pleasing or the perfectionism pieces. That's the bit that I was like, I really need to work with that, because that's not something I want to then pass down to my children. I don't want my boys to feel like that. How can I break that cycle, those generational cycles? And actually, yeah, I've done a lot of work on myself as a mum, you know, gone to lots of therapy and things, but I haven't tried any hypnotherapy. So I might give your audio a listen, because I think you've got to try different things to see what works for you too. So that's really interesting, and it's reassuring in the sense where, because I do worry, I think, gosh, my eldest is now getting to 6, and I think of all of these years, you know, I tried really hard to, you know, help him, you know, not, you know, do certain things, but I know there are definitely, you know, conditioning and things which have gone in that, you know, I would love to be able to change for him even now, and, you know, find better solutions and strategies for him now. So, you know, knowing that actually as adults, if we can do that, you know, for our children, we can help them with certain things that they struggle with already too. So that's reassuring, because it is quite scary thinking that, you know, they're being conditioned like we are being conditioned, and if we can break those things and do things in a more positive way, then
Yeah.
we'll be okay.
One thing I want to say on that is, like, we are all doing the best we can with what we've got, but we are in a really amazing point in time where we know so much about the brain, we know so much about the nervous system. We're learning so much through the internet all the time on social media. You know, you get psychotherapists and people giving away free information, and so we know. I know I'm doing a better job than my parents, and they're amazing parents, and they were cycle breakers, and they were doing a bloody good job because their parents were full of trauma and full of their own issues. And so I just want to remind you that you're doing a bloody amazing job. So don't, from what I've shared about, oh, okay, you know, you've got to do everything right in those first sort of 6 or 7 years, you would have done a bloody amazing job for your eldest son. And, you know, it's work in progress, but yeah, I don't kind of want to say, oh yeah, if you've done anything wrong, or like look at those memories from the past and think, I could have done better there. Just have some self-compassion, and yeah, we're all doing bloody amazing. So
Yeah, I have to say, there's one that I always sort of, you know, from my past, I always think about my mum, for example. I always think she did the best she could with the information she had at the time. And like you
yeah,
say, we are so in a great situation in the sense we have so much information, but it is about thinking we have all this, we don't have to listen to all the information. We don't have to, you know, take it all on board. We don't have to change everything. We just have to be aware of it and inform us, you know, almost giving us the tools that we can do the best we can with the information we have at the time. So we
yeah,
can only just keep growing, which I think is a great thing. It's a scary thing, but we are just trying. And there's things, you know, that will get in the way with this subconscious and this unconscious addictions that we don't realize maybe actually, you know, we have. So I think it's good to know them, to recognize them. And if, you know, for me, I know I'll take this away, and I think it's something that I will intentionally go and have a look at myself, because I know it is a pattern that I'm, you know, keeping up, and it's something that I would like to change. So for anybody who is like me and wants to know more and would like to learn more about you and the work that you've done, and, you know, access your audio files, can you tell us where can we find you, and yeah, how can we get hold of more of this fabulous information?
Yeah, you can find me mostly on Instagram. So my handle is at the Mindful Generation. I do share a lot about the nervous system and yeah, the stuff that is. I always like to share science-backed information. And the podcast is called Unlearning with Laura, and so there's some great conversations over there with guests and solo episodes and, as I said, hypnosis audios. You may listen to the hypnosis, by the way, and be like, I don't like her voice, or this isn't, there's no rapport there, and that's fine. So sometimes, and hypnotherapy isn't for everyone. I just wanted to add a caveat there. I retrained in it because I knew that it would be quite a quick way for mums to maybe overcome things, because we're in a rush all the time and because we've got busy lives. But actually people might listen to the audios and be like, oh, that's not for me. But yeah, I love doing the podcast, and there's some really fantastic episodes with expert guests as well. So yeah, Unlearning with Laura. I guess my website, which is mindful-generation.com, where you can find out more about how I work.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Laura. It's been an absolute pleasure. I feel like I can go in. I know we're in the thick of the festive season right now, but I feel like it's just been able to make me have a little think for myself today. So that's really helpful to know that it isn't, it can be manageable if we just take some time for ourselves during this particular time of year when it is super crazy. So thank you very much for that. And thank you to anyone who's joined us. Any feedback would be fabulous. And I look forward to seeing you again in the new year, Laura. I know you always have lots more tips and tricks and things for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you for having me. Thanks, everyone.
Absolute pleasure. Speak soon. Bye.